Hello everybody, hope you are doing well today. Jordan Grain here with Farm Builder, and what we're going to show you today is a little bit of what we got going on with the pasture and some gilts. So what you can see here, these are a group of gilts that are on pasture that are within a week of farrowing. You can see like this girl right here, pretty low line, especially for a gilt. A lot of piggies going on in there, hopefully. This one up here getting a little grass. And so what we got here is it's late September, and we've got 3 or 4 days of rain in the forecast, supposed to be starting this evening. It's already overcast and a little bit breezy. And we decided with this gilt set, even though it's not winter, to go ahead and put up our winter shelters for them, as gilts aren't always the smartest creatures when it comes to making a nest and picking a spot, and we just don't want to have any problems. So we went ahead and deployed the shelters here. So what I'll show you is what's going on in those shelters, how we got them set up, and where these animals just came from, and how we're going to work this first farrowing for these 10 gilts here. So a little bit of background on this set. These gilts have been on pasture their whole lives, and they have not been into the woods at all yet. And so we use the nets for a while and then transition them to wire. And this is normally what they have for their shade out on in the field. And I'll show you a little bit of how this is put together, because we've gotten a lot of questions about it. This is a very simple structure that we put on those old hay wagon chassis that aren't good for much of anything, but you can get them for like $200-300. So you can kind of see the inside here, and you can see the frame that we put on it. 3x9s, I think they were, or 10s, and then 3x3 stringers coming across. And we used the material that you can get for making dog fence, chain link fence at Lowe's. So these puppies right here, they're bolted in. See if we can see inside, and you can see they're going up and kind of being the shell of our structure, or the support members of the structure. And that's the what would be a top rail for your chain link running along the top. And then for our actual ribs, this is 3/4 inch conduit, metal conduit that you can get from Lowe's or Home Depot, whatever. And if you get one of those pipe benders, you can bend it yourself and turn them into these ribs, which just go up and then bend over the top. Very simple. It allows a lot of flexibility as it's moving across the field. If it needs to bow a little bit, it can, and wiggle around. That's fine. And this one's been in use for 4 years now. It's done really well. There's a shade cloth that we have on it, and then a lot of times we'll put a tarp above that, during cold weather if we're getting a lot of rain. And so this is what they normally were under up till today, actually. And the reason we don't like to use these for farrowing is they all tend to crowd underneath it, and we don't want that happening when there's a bunch of new piggies wiggling around and moving around. They end up getting crushed. And so we do not use this for when they are actually farrowing. But this is the paddock where they were in, and normally they're in a paddock 6 to 8 days, and then they move on. So I'll walk up here and show you our fencing style that we use. So this is what we are using for our fencing. This is single strand 15 gauge aluminum wire, and it's just spooled on those electric cord spools, again from Lowe's or Home Depot. You can probably notice a trend developing here where we get a lot of our stuff. And these spools do break down in the sun over maybe 2 years, and you will have to replace them, but they're $6 or $5 or whatever. And found that's a lot cheaper than nice fancy reels, but that are a lot more expensive. So you can see the line here. Where to set the line, how high, is generally where the pig's nose to eyes are going to be when they're just standing there kind of at rest, just kind of standing around looking around. That's where you want that line to be. So if they walk up to it and just look at it, it's right there at nose height. So if they stick their nose on it, they get popped. And this is the end that we have here. So it's just a porcelain knob that is on the end of the line that runs up and around that side of the paddock. And then this spool starts down towards the bottom and comes up this way. So we're always using 2 spools on a paddock. That way we can move it on or move the pigs to their next paddock simply by just winding up the line on the side adjoining the old paddock and new paddock. So that's how that works. For chargers, we'll cover this real quick. These are our Premier chargers. I think these are the PRS B50s, I believe. Tags worn off here over time, but that's what we use. Solar chargers, and they generally work pretty well. You do have to watch out a little bit for shade in the fall and winter, but they've done really well. Grounding rod. This is just the grounding rod they send with it, and that's buried about 16 inches into the ground, and that works just fine. On a good day, I've seen these fences push 11,000 volts, but here in the late summer, well, actually early fall now, you know, kind of 6,000 to 8,000 is our standard voltage that we get off those lines. And I know there's a lot of discussion about keeping pigs in the paddock and what kind of fences are used, and everybody's got their own opinion. But for us, single strand is what we use for our large feeder hogs and all of our sows. And if they don't cooperate with that fence, they go away. And I can tell you, I do believe fence compatibility is a heritable trait in your hogs that we rarely have a breakout in our pigs. I mean, you can count them on one hand in a year, the amount of times that these hogs get out of this fence. So wasn't that way in the beginning though, but yeah, I guess our management has gotten better and our genetics have gotten tamer and everybody's gotten happier, I suppose. Now you probably see there's a lot of pigweed in this pasture. This pasture here has had hogs over it, at least half a dozen times in the last year. And that's one thing we've noticed is weeds do tend to develop as they're grazing through. So we'll be bush hogging these down once these piggies move on and deal with the weeds appropriately. All right, so for drinkers, this is the Brower 80-gallon. It's called a medicated or medicating drinker. I guess you use it if you are medicating your animals, which we're not using it for that, but we're using it just as their regular water source. So we can fill this up either with a float valve on the top or just stick a hose in it whenever they drink it out. And then they can stick their head in right here, and that's where they get their water. And it's a little bit dirty right now because they like to stick their dirty mouths in there when they're full of dirt and get a drink. One more thing on this, you can see this wooden base that it's on. This is, sawmilled oak 2x4s and 5/4 by 8s that we build those out of. Pretty heavy duty. This one's been in service for 3-4 years maybe, and still holding up well, and that allows us to move the tank easily from paddock to paddock, and also prevents them from tipping it over. As you can see, it is bolted down. All right, moving on here with our tour of some sows on pasture to the feeders. So these are the feeders that we use. You've probably seen me post about them before. These are our tire feeders, and I'm a big believer in these for sow stock, that they're the toughest, roughest, cheapest feeder that you can build that stand up to the abuse. And this is pressure treated 2x8s for your base, and then some 4x4s for skids to hold it all together. Your tire up here, this is just a throwaway tire from your local tire shop. They will give you all you want for free because they have to pay to dispose of them. And what we used to lag screw them down, and then we went to bigger lag screws, timber lags and stuff, and the sows would rip the tires off these things after a while. So we don't play nice anymore with that. These are straight up machine bolts going through the tire, through the lumber, and through the 4x4, anchoring this puppy down. And seem to have worked well with that design on them. So less than $50 in material to make these feeders, and kind of what's worked out as far as how many pigs per feeder is 2 pigs per tire. Seems to work out pretty decently. So six sows per unit here gets the job done. All right, we'll walk down here and show you the shelters, and that should kind of wrap up our little tour here. So you can see this girl here getting pregnant. There's another one coming up. So we've had a closed herd now for almost 6 years, 5-6 years, and so all these gilts here are the result of, you know, maybe 4 years of selection. Somebody coming over to say hello. She wants apples. And we do get questions on what breeds we use and how that works. And I can tell you, you know, when we started, we got good piglets from other, you know, producers in the area that had, you know, maybe half dozen sows or 10. You know, just kind of doing it at a part-time, you know, backyard level. And we were raising them up as feeder pigs and finishing them to sell at, you know, retail through our farmers markets and on-farm store. And we wanted to get control of our supply chain with piglets, because it was the problems that were presenting were consistency of performance, you know, worm issues, and then just getting the quantities that we wanted. We wanted to run sets of 30 to 50 hogs, and it's hard to get a nice uniform set of piglets in those quantities. So that's what led us to get into breeding our own, and we are strictly selecting for a couple traits. One is compatibility with our system. These are pigs that'll work well outdoors, low input from our part. You know, they largely take care of themselves and get business done. They grow out well and quickly. We want about a 7-month grow out time to a 300-pound live weight hog. 7 or 8 months is what we're shooting for. And then you know, just that kind of classic American hog look, a long line, broad in the front shoulders, chest area for good Boston butts and, you know, picnic roasts, and then just good disposition on the females. So for us, color is of entirely no consequence, although we have noticed that, at least with the genetics that we started with, that the Yorkshire colored ones, the white pigs, have not worked out well. And so we moved away from them. Kind of a reds and blacks and spotted ones have kind of been the best if you're going to look at color. But that's not what we're going for. We want a good pig that works well in our system, that gives a good yielding carcass in a timely manner. So nothing too crazy on our want list there, right? For females, what we're looking for when we select piglets as replacement females are a couple things. One, we don't keep replacement females from any first-time farrowers. So all the piglets these guys give, we'll be sending on to other farms or finishing them ourselves. Just, you know, there could be some funky genetics in those first piglets, so we're not going to do that. The second thing is they have to be coming from a mother that has done really well in this system. She's got good temperament. She's giving good litters. She's taking care of her piggies. You know, kind of the basics there. And the piglet itself has to be one of the biggest ones in the litter when we wean them. So we are keeping our top, you know, maybe 5 to 10% of our females as our replacement females. So I know there's a lot of folks who keep their runts as their replacement females, but I think that's a foolish thing to do, as it will erode your genetic capabilities over time. So we are only keeping the best females when we make that initial selection at about 12 weeks old. From there, we will grow out a larger set of females. You know, so we will say select 15 to 20 females that have the potential to be a replacement sow, and grow them out. And then when they're about 6 months old is when we would breed them, and that's when we're going to make our kind of second to last selection on them. If any of them are not doing well, you know, just showing some issues that we don't like, we will call them out to be, you know, just slaughtered. So again, we're keeping the best of our females. So that group is going to go down from 20 to say 12 to 14. So we're going to cut off the ones that aren't doing well on the bottom. So we're just keeping the cream of the crop. and then they will be bred. And so, you know, kind of right now, I guess, is the final selection for her if she's going to continue. And this is really a criteria we hold all of our sows to. But she needs to be weaning 8 piglets. That's kind of our benchmark for them. And do well as the mother, not freak out too much. You know, for gilts, there's a little bit of forgiveness if they're a little clumsy with the piglets and maybe don't know what's going on. We'll give them a little bit of forgiveness on that. But by the second time around, they need to know what's up and carry on with their piglets. As far as their, you know, physical appearance, like I said, we want a broad front end on them, a even top line, and then I like to have at least 7 teats per side, so she's got enough to feed a good litter of piglets. You know, a lot of ours have 8. There's a handful that have 9, which is amazing, but we really don't want to have any that only have 6. So those are some of our criteria on selecting females as replacements. And I'll show you here the shelters that we're using, and we'll wrap this video up. Okay, you watched the video we posted last winter on our field shelters. We kind of went over the details of what led us to develop them and why, so I won't cover that again, but I'll just show you a few additional things here that we've done. One thing is we try to set them up on the flattest piece of ground in their paddock. That way, you know, everybody tends to drift downhill when they're born, and the sow will tend to drift downhill. So try to pick a flat spot, and that's what we've done here in this paddock. Another thing that we've added in the back here is a bump bar, and so we just screw this on once the unit is unfolded, and that gives about 12 inches of space along the back there that the sow won't be able to roll back or scoot back, and so that's a safe place for the piglets to go where they can't get squashed. And so that's helped a lot last winter as we use these. A little bit of the underside, just because people have asked a ton about this and some of the specifics. These stringers are made out of 2x6. You can see there they pivot at that point with a hook that serves to anchor it to the base when they're collapsed. 2x4 ribs going across, 3/4 inch plywood on the back and the sides, and these sides are detachable. They're just screwed in on the bottom here, at the top, and then the back. And when this whole thing is folded up, you know, we can stack these 4 or 5 high and transport them anywhere we need to on the farm, and they've worked out really well. So the reason, like I said at the beginning of the video, we're putting these out right now is we're supposed to be getting a bunch of rain in the next couple days, and with these gilts, just want to play it safe and make sure everybody's going to be happy. And it could be down the 50s at night too, so that can be a little cold on piglets. But so I guess that about covers everything that we got going on here. So we've got 11 of them in here that should be going any day, and got them all moved here before the rain. Hopefully everybody will settle in and find their own shelter, and looking forward to having some piglets out here on the pasture. So feel free to ask any additional questions you may have below, and I will try to get to them when I can. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, check out our Facebook pages, Farm Builder Entrepreneurs. If you are a already existing farm and would like to collaborate and commiserate with other farmers like yourself. If you are looking to get into farming, check out the Facebook page, Farm Builder Incubator. That's an awesome place if you're looking to get some knowledge from some guys who have at least something to say. All right, that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Y'all enjoy and take care, and keep going out there on the pasture.